It's strange how silence can scream louder than words. For 30 years, this house has held its breath, waiting for footsteps that never came back. Every creak in the floorboards still sounds like her running to me, but she's not here. She hasn't been here since the spring of 1995. They say time heals everything. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal. It hides the pain under layers of dust until one day it decides to remind you. My name is Margaret Hall, and this is the story of how my best friend, the woman I trusted more than anyone, told me the truth about my daughter's disappearance 3 decades too late. The present day. It was a gray Tuesday morning, the kind that smells like rain and regret. I was sitting at the edge of my bed, holding a chipped coffee mug, staring at the window. Outside, the old maple tree swayed just like it did that morning she vanished. 30 years. You'd think grief would soften with time, but for me, it sharpened. Every birthday she missed, every holiday photo with an empty chair. They weren't memories, they were reminders. I still live in the same town, small, quiet, tucked between the woods and the river. People here don't forget. They just stop asking. The police had long closed the case, missing, presumed dead. But a mother never presumes. A mother just waits. And then that morning, my phone buzzed, a text notification. It was from a name I hadn't seen in 20 years, Anna Porter. My best friend, the woman who stood beside me when the police searched the woods, the woman who held me when I broke down, whispering, "We'll find her, Margaret, I promise." We never did, and after the investigation faded, so did Anna. No calls, no letters, nothing. It was like she disappeared too, until today. Her message was short, just 7 words. "I need to tell you the truth." My hands shook. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I stared at those words, the way you stare at a wound you thought had healed. Truth about what? About her? I typed back one word. Why now? The reply came instantly. Because I can't live with it anymore. That's when I knew, whatever this was, it wasn't small. They always ask, what's the last thing you remember? For me, it's her laughter. April 17th, 1995. Spring had just begun, and my daughter Emily was 10 years old. Freckles, ponytail, always a smudge of paint on her cheek. She loved to draw. Houses, animals, sometimes people who looked suspiciously like us. That morning, Emily begged to go to the park after school. Anna's son, Luke, was her best friend. Same age, same laughter. I remember standing in the kitchen, pouring orange juice as Emily shouted, "Mom, Anna said she'll take us both. She promised." Anna, always so full of life, always smiling. She lived 2 houses down. Blonde hair, wine-colored lipstick, the kind of woman who made sadness feel temporary. Our friendship was built on countless cups of coffee, shared tears, and laughter that filled the street. She was the sister I never had, until the day she took my daughter. Emily, they went to the park. They never came back together. Anna said she went to get ice cream. She left them near the slide for 5 minutes. When she returned, Emily was gone. No one saw her leave. No one heard her scream. Just gone. I can still hear Anna crying beside me that night, whispering, "I'm so sorry, Margaret. I should have never left her." She looked broken, and I believed her. God help me, I believed her. The years after that were a blur. My marriage didn't survive the silence. My husband left after the 2nd anniversary of her disappearance. He said he couldn't keep pretending. I didn't argue. I didn't have the energy to. I lived for one thing only: hope. Hope that one day I'd get a call saying they found her. Hope that one day someone would knock on my door. Instead, I got a message from Anna. I stared at her message for hours before calling. My thumb hovered over her name like it was radioactive. When she finally picked up, I almost didn't recognize her voice. It was older, weaker, but the guilt was unmistakable. Margaret, I didn't think you'd answer. You shouldn't have disappeared, I said. Not after everything. I know, she whispered. I wanted to tell you back then, but I couldn't. Tell me what? There was silence, the kind that stretches between heartbeats. Meet me, she said finally. There's something you need to see. And before I could ask where, she added something that froze me. It's about Emily. My heart stopped. For 30 years, no one had said her name like that. She's gone, Anna, I said quietly. She's not gone, she whispered. You just never knew the truth. The line went dead. I walked into Emily's room. It's still exactly how she left it. Small bed, faded posters, a cracked window frame. The air always smells faintly like lavender and dust. I sat on the floor beside her dollhouse, tracing the edges of the tiny wooden door. Inside were the same little figures she loved. A mother, a father, and a child. She used to move them around, whispering stories about happy families. Now they just stared back at me, frozen in place. For 30 years, I've asked God one question. Why her? And for 30 years, I got silence until Anna called. That night, as I sat in that small room, the storm outside grew louder. The wind howled and the power flickered. And I realized maybe silence wasn't the absence of answers. Maybe it was waiting for me to be ready to hear them. Anna wanted to meet, and I was going to find out what she'd been hiding all this time. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't going to bring peace. It was going to break everything I had left. When you've waited 30 years for the truth, you forget one thing. The truth doesn't heal, it destroys before it saves. And what Anna told me next made me realize I never really knew her at all. They say the past sleeps, but that's not true. It waits, quietly, patiently, until one sound, one smell, one word wakes it up again. And that word, for me, was Emily. When Anna said her name, 30 years of buried pain cracked open like old plaster. And somewhere beneath all that dust, something else stirred. Something I didn't want to believe. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, 10 years old, missing tooth, laughing with her crayons. I saw the park, the swings, the way the sunlight hit her hair, and Anna standing behind her, smiling. But now that smile felt different, like I'd remembered it wrong. The message that wouldn't leave my mind. The next morning, I sat by the kitchen window. Same mug, same silence, except this time my phone wasn't quiet. Anna's message blinked on the screen, still unread. There's something you need to see. What could she possibly show me after all these years? A photo? A confession? Or something worse? A lie she was finally tired of carrying? I almost deleted it. But curiosity is a cruel kind of hope. It makes you believe that this time, maybe, the ending will be different. So I typed, where? A few seconds later, the reply came. Meet me at the old park, noon. The same park where Emily vanished. My chest tightened. The park had been closed for years, overgrown and forgotten, but I knew I'd go because if grief teaches you anything, it's that not knowing is worse than any truth. Before I left, I stood at the doorway of Emily's room again. The morning light fell across her tiny desk, her drawings still taped on the wall, edges yellowed with time. One picture always drew my eye, a sketch of two women holding hands under a big tree. She'd written in shaky pencil, Mommy and Miss Anna.
Back then, it made me smile. Now it just made me wonder, what kind of bond had she really shared with Anna? I picked up the drawing, folded it gently, and slipped it into my coat pocket. Some memories you carry not because they're beautiful, but because they're all you have left.
The park looked smaller than I remembered. The swings were rusted, the benches half broken, and the slide, the one where Emily played last, stood crooked like a gravestone. Every sound here echoed like it was trapped in time. And then I saw her, Anna, gray hair tied back, long coat, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her. But when she turned toward me, I saw it. The same eyes that cried with me 30 years ago. Only now they looked hollow. "Margaret," she said, her voice trembling. "You came. I almost didn't." "I know," she whispered. "You shouldn't have." Her hands shook as she reached into her purse. She pulled out a small, faded photograph, one I hadn't seen in decades. It was that day, the day Emily disappeared. Except this photo was different. I was in the background, sitting at the picnic table. Emily was on the swing. And beside her, Anna's son, Luke. But someone else was there too. A man, standing near the trees, half hidden, watching them. I'd never seen him before. "Who is that?" I asked. Anna's lips quivered. "That's what I've been trying to tell you." When I looked closer at that picture years later, Anna whispered, I realized he wasn't a stranger at all. I stared at her. "What do you mean?" She swallowed hard. "He was someone you knew, Margaret. Someone very close to you." The flashback. The image blurred in my mind, pulling me back to that spring afternoon. The smell of fresh-cut grass, Emily's laughter, Anna's voice calling from the car. "Just 5 minutes, kids. I'll grab us ice cream." Everything normal, everything safe, until it wasn't. I remember talking to my husband that morning. He'd been distant, cold, distracted. I asked if he could pick up Emily after work. He said he was busy, said he had a meeting, said a lot of things that day that didn't matter, or maybe matter too much, because when the police interviewed him later, his timeline didn't quite add up. But I was too broken to notice, too desperate to believe anyone could have hurt her, especially him. Now, 30 years later, standing in that same park, Anna's words clawed at my chest. "Someone I knew? Anna, tell me what you're saying." She shook her head. "I can't. Not yet. You need to see it yourself." "See what?" "The photo isn't the only thing I found." She looked over her shoulder as if afraid someone was listening. "I kept something from you, Margaret. Back then, I thought I was protecting you." My hands trembled. "Protecting me from what?" Anna looked straight at me and whispered, "The truth about your husband." I froze. The world around me blurred, like the storm was only inside my head now. "My husband?" Anna nodded slowly. "There were things he told me, things I promised never to repeat. But why now?" "Because he's gone, Margaret, and he took too much with him." I turned away, tears mixing with the drizzle. Every memory of him, his laughter, his warmth, his silence, twisted into something unfamiliar. Had he lied? Had he known? Anna stepped closer. "I can prove it," she said. "But you need to come with me." The invitation. Anna slipped an old key into my hand. It was rusted, cold, and tied to a faded blue ribbon. She whispered, "Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., the old cabin by the lake." I stared at it. That place had been abandoned for decades. Why there? Anna sighed. "It's where it all started, and where it needs to end." I looked down at the key. Something about the ribbon felt familiar. Then I remembered. Emily used to tie her hair with one just like it. Before I could ask, Anna turned and walked away, her silhouette fading into the rain. And I was left standing in the park, clutching that key, feeling like the ground beneath me had shifted forever. Narration. Mother's voice. Slow. The truth doesn't come knocking. It creeps. It follows you like a shadow, waiting for the moment you're alone enough to listen. That night, I sat in the dark staring at that key, and somewhere between fear and faith, I realized I wasn't ready for what waited at that cabin, but I was going anyway. Because when you've lived half your life in the dark, even the ugliest truth looks like light. If you're feeling the weight of Margaret's story, subscribe to True Bonds, where every story carries a heartbeat. We post daily emotional dramas and real-life inspired mysteries. And if you have a story of your own you'd like the world to hear, email us. It might be featured next. As I drove toward that cabin the next night, one thought echoed in my mind. If Anna was telling the truth, then the monster I'd been searching for all these years was the man I once called my husband. It had been raining for 2 days straight when I finally climbed up into the attic. The smell of old wood and dust greeted me like a memory that refused to fade. It was strange. I had lived in that house for over 30 years, yet every creak in the floor still whispered her name, Lily, my little girl who never came home. For years, I couldn't bring myself to touch her things. Every birthday, every Christmas, I'd stand outside her room and just listen, as if one day I might hear her laugh again, muffled behind the door. But that evening, something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the message from Anna that still sat unread on my phone. Whatever it was, I opened the attic door and stepped into the past. Boxes, dozens of them, labeled with dates I had tried to forget. I traced my fingers over one marked Lily, 1994. I sat down, cross-legged on the cold floor, and opened it. Inside were small shoes, her favorite pink brush, a broken hair clip with a cartoon butterfly, and under it all, a photo album. I hadn't seen it in decades. Page after page, moments frozen in time. Her 7th birthday, her and Anna baking cookies, picnics by the lake. Then I saw it. That photo, the one from the day she disappeared. Lily, wearing her yellow raincoat, standing in front of the old oak tree, her smile wide, innocent, but my eyes caught something else. Something small, blurry in the background. Anna, not smiling, not even looking at Lily, just watching her. And behind Anna, a shadow, a shape, someone else standing there, almost hidden. My hands trembled. I brought the photo closer, squinting under the weak attic bulb. There was a reflection in the car window behind them, a man's silhouette, and something about it felt familiar. My pulse quickened. 30 years of grief suddenly collided with a single terrifying question. Who was that man? I scanned the background again, noticing details I'd missed before. A green pickup truck, a bracelet on Anna's wrist I didn't recognize, and the way her eyes weren't focused on Lily, but slightly to the left as if distracted or afraid. I grabbed my phone and took a picture of the photo, enlarging it. My heart sunk. The license plate, though blurry, started with the same 3 letters as my husband's old truck. I sat there, staring at the image, my throat tightening. Could it be? No. He couldn't have. But then I remembered something. A night, years after Lily vanished. He had come home late, smelling of whiskey, his shirt muddy. When I asked, he just said, "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." At the time, I thought he meant his drinking. Now, I wasn't so sure. I closed the photo album, clutching it to my chest. Anna's face, that subtle unease, haunted me. She knew something. Maybe she had known all along. The next morning, I couldn't hold back anymore. I dialed her number. It rang twice before she answered. Her voice was weaker than I remembered, almost trembling. "Mary?" she said softly. "It's me," I replied. "We need to talk." A pause. A long, heavy silence. Then Anna whispered something that made my blood run cold. I froze. "What does that mean, Anna?" But she didn't answer. Instead, I heard a faint sob on the other end, and the line went dead. I tried calling again, nothing. Her number was disconnected, and that's when I knew she was hiding something bigger than guilt. Maybe fear. Maybe the truth itself. That night, I went back to the attic. I searched every box, every envelope, desperate for something more. And just as I was about to give up, I found it. Taped under the box lid, it was a small, crumpled letter. It was addressed to me, the handwriting, unmistakably Anna's, faded, shaky. "If you're reading this, it means the past has found you. I'm sorry, Mary, but I wasn't the only one there that day. And if I tell you the truth, someone will die." I dropped the letter, my hands trembling. Her words echoed in my head like thunder. Wasn't the only one there that day. There was someone else. Someone I once trusted with my entire life. And for the first time in 30 years, I wasn't just a grieving mother. I was a woman ready to uncover a buried truth, no matter who it destroyed. It took me 2 days to gather the courage to leave. I packed a small bag, just clothes, the photo, and Anna's letter. The rest of my life stayed behind, gathering dust like the years I lost. I looked at my reflection in the mirror before leaving. Gray streaks in my hair, eyes that once smiled but now only searched. For 30 years, I'd imagined this day. The day I'd look her in the eye and ask why. The drive was long. 4 hours of nothing but endless roads, ghost towns, and the faint sound of rain. I replayed her words over and over in my mind. There are things you were never meant to find. Every syllable felt like a knife twisting deeper. What could be so dark that even after 30 decades, she couldn't say it aloud? Anna lived in a small town near the Oregon coast now. Quiet, isolated, forgotten. A place where people go to disappear. When I reached her street, I almost didn't recognize her house. The paint had peeled off. The garden was overgrown. A curtain shifted as I parked. She had been watching. She opened the door before I could knock, and there she was. Older, fragile, but those eyes, the same ones that once laughed with me over wine and secrets, now looked hollow. She whispered, "Mary?" For a moment, neither of us moved. We just stood there, two ghosts staring at each other, caught between love and accusation. She said, "I didn't think you'd come. I didn't think you'd still be alive," I replied quietly. She stepped aside, motioning me in. The house smelt like old books and rainwater. Photos lined the walls. None of Lily. Not one. We sat across from each other at a small wooden table. The silence stretched like a thread ready to snap. Finally, I placed the photo on the table. "Tell me," I said steadily, my voice steady. "What happened that day?" Her eyes darted to the picture. Her hands trembled. She stared at it for what seemed like minutes, then whispered, "I wasn't supposed to be there that morning." "What do you mean?" She called me, but I wasn't. "I went to your house because he called me." "Who?" She swallowed hard. Her lips quivered. "Your husband, Tom." My chest tightened. "What did he want with you?" Anna's voice cracked. "He said he needed help, that Lily wanted to surprise you with something. A gift. He asked me to take her to the lake." I could barely breathe. "The lake?" She nodded slowly. But when we got there, he was already waiting. I didn't understand. He looked angry, drunk. Lily got scared and ran into the woods. I gripped the edge of the table. Then what happened? Anna's tears began to fall. I tried to stop him. I swear, Mary, I tried. For a moment, I saw flashes. Her running, Lily crying, Tom shouting. My stomach churned. "Why didn't you tell me?" Anna covered her face with her hands. "Because he threatened me, said if I ever spoke, I'd end up like her." The words slammed into me like a tidal wave. "End up like her?" I leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Anna shook her head violently. "You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. He panicked. He thought—" She stopped. Her body froze mid-sentence. Her eyes went wide, terrified. I turned my head. Outside, through the fogged glass, a figure stood near the car. Tall, still, watching. My blood turned cold. "Anna," I whispered. "Who is that?" She didn't answer. Her eyes just filled with tears. And then she whispered one name. A name I hadn't heard in decades. "Rachel," she whispered. "Rachel? My sister?" Anna nodded. "She was there too, Mary, that day. She saw everything." My head spun. Rachel, my own sister. She had moved away right after Lily disappeared, refused to talk about it, said she couldn't bear the pain. But now, it made sense. I grabbed Anna's hand. "Tell me everything." Anna sobbed uncontrollably. "She made me promise never to speak, said she'd handle it, said you didn't need to know. I wanted to tell you, I swear, but she—" Sudden knock at the door, loud, echoing. We both froze. The knock came again, slower this time. I glanced at Anna. Her lips trembled. "She found us," she whispered. I stood slowly, every nerve in my body on fire. Anna's breathing quickened. "Don't open it. Please, Mary, you're not ready for what's on the other side." But it was too late. I turned the handle, the door creaked open, and what I saw next changed everything I thought I knew about that day. She said her name, and it wasn't hers.
She said her name, and it wasn't hers. For a second, I didn't understand what I was hearing. Rachel stood there in the doorway, drenched in the soft drizzle that coated the Oregon air.
Her eyes, my sister's eyes, looked through me, not at me. And when her lips parted, the name that came out didn't belong to her at all. Anna, she said slowly, her tone cutting the silence. You weren't supposed to tell her. I felt the room tilt. Anna's face went pale, her shaking hands gripping the edge of the table like she needed it to stay upright. Rachel, she started, but my sister's voice sliced through. No, Rachel said sharply. You've done enough. I stared at her. Rachel, what are you doing here? What's going on? She stepped forward, her boots wet from the rain, eyes burning with something between guilt and rage. You shouldn't have come here, Mary. This should have stayed buried. Buried. The word echoed inside me like thunder rolling in a hollow chest. Anna finally stood trembling, tears sliding down her cheeks. She deserves to know, Rachel. You can't keep this anymore. Rachel's jaw tightened. You think she'll survive it? After everything, you saw what happened to her back then. Stop talking like I'm not here, I snapped, my voice shaking. What do you mean I wouldn't survive it? What could possibly be worse than 30 years of not knowing what happened to my daughter? Rachel closed her eyes. You really want the truth? Yes, I breathed. Every damn piece of it. She sighed, a long, broken exhale, and walked further into the room. The air between us felt thick, heavy with ghosts. Her hands were cold when she brushed her hair back, and her voice, it cracked when she finally said, It wasn't Tom who hurt Lily. The words hit like a punch. Behind me, Anna gasped. What? I whispered. You're lying. Rachel shook her head slowly. I wish I was. I took a step closer, my pulse roaring in my ears. Then who was it? Her lips trembled. Someone you trusted even more than him. I froze, my thoughts spinning through names, faces, memories. Then Rachel looked at me, her expression hollow, and whispered, It was Dad. Silence. Not the kind that's empty, the kind that consumes. My knees almost gave out. Dad? Our father? The man who raised us, who held my baby when she was born, who built her treehouse with his own hands? I shook my head in disbelief. No, that's not possible. Rachel stepped closer. He came to the lake that day, Mary. You didn't know because you were at work. Tom called him, said Lily wanted to surprise you, but when he got there, something snapped in him. Anna's sobs filled the room. Rachel continued, her voice breaking. He blamed you. Said you were turning Lily against him, that you'd poisoned her mind. When she ran, She stopped, her throat tightening. He chased her. I followed. By the time I caught up, my stomach turned. Rachel, don't. She swallowed hard. She was gone, Mary. Gone. Anna covered her mouth from keeping from screaming. My vision blurred. I took a step back, the floor creaking under my heels. Everything inside me screamed this couldn't be true. My father. My own father. The man who raised us. The man who built her treehouse with his own hands. I shook my head in disbelief. Rachel continued quietly. He told me not to tell you. He said it was an accident, that she fell. He buried her near the lake that night. No, I felt my body shaking. You helped him? Tears flooded her eyes. I was 17. He said I'd go to prison. He said it would destroy you. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was protecting you. You buried my daughter's truth, I whispered, my voice trembling. For 30 years, you let me think my husband killed her. Rachel broke down, falling to her knees. I've lived with it every day, Mary. Every damn day. Dad made me promise, but when he died, I thought maybe it would stay buried. Until Anna started drinking again, talking again. I knew it was only a matter of time before you found out. I couldn't breathe. The world spun, walls closing in on me. memories collapsing on top of me. Every smile, every family photo, every childhood story now felt rotten. I looked at Anna, then Rachel, both of them crying, broken, but not as broken as I was. Where? I asked. Rachel lifted her eyes. What? Where did he bury her? She hesitated. Her silence was an answer in itself. You still remember, I said. You've been there, haven't you? Rachel wiped her tears. Once, years ago. I couldn't face it again. I stepped forward, gripping her arm. Then take me there. She shook her head. Mary, take me there! I screamed, my voice echoing through the house, shaking the walls. Both women froze. Anna whispered softly, Maybe it's time. Rachel finally nodded, her eyes red, defeated. Tomorrow morning, we'll go. But you need to prepare yourself, Mary. I glared at her. I've been preparing for 30 years. That night, none of us slept. I sat in Anna's guest room, staring out at the rain hitting the window. Lightning cracked in the distance, lighting up the dark room for half a second at a time, like flashes of memory. I saw Lily's face, her smile, her freckles, her messy hair tied up with a pink ribbon. I remembered the way she used to run barefoot in the backyard, chasing fireflies. And then, the day she vanished, the police, the search, the questions. I thought about Dad, how he'd held me that night, whispering, We'll find her, Mary. How he'd cried at the funeral. Fake tears, now I realized. How he'd avoided the lake after that, saying it was too painful. Everything clicked into place. The avoidance, the anger, the way Rachel left town right after. I wanted to scream, to dig him out of his grave and make him answer me. Instead, I sat there, the house silent, except for the rain. Anna came in quietly. She had aged overnight. The weight of the truth had crushed her posture. She handed me a small glass of water. I didn't know it was him, she said softly. I swear I didn't. I thought it was Tom. That's what Rachel told me. I nodded faintly. I don't know what's worse, I whispered. That it happened or that it was hidden. Anna placed a trembling hand on my shoulder. Tomorrow, you'll see. You'll know. Tomorrow, I whispered, staring into the rain, I'll meet my daughter again, even if it's only her bones. That night, none of us slept. I sat in Anna's guest room, staring out at the rain hitting the window. Lightning cracked in the distance, lighting up the dark room for half a second at a time, like flashes of memory. I saw Lily's face, her smile, her freckles, her messy hair tied up with a pink ribbon. I remembered the way she used to run barefoot in the backyard, chasing fireflies. And then, the day she vanished, the police, the search, the questions. I thought about Dad, how he'd held me that night, whispering, We'll find her, Mary. How he'd cried at the funeral, fake tears, now I realized. How he'd avoided the lake after that, saying it was too painful. Everything clicked into place, the avoidance, the anger, the way Rachel left town right after. The rain had stopped by dawn, but the sky was still heavy, the kind of gray that pressed down on you, refusing to let light in. Anna made coffee, though none of us drank it. The silence between us was a language of its own. Guilt, exhaustion, fear. Rachel sat by the window, her hands wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. She looked smaller somehow, like the truth had stripped her of the armor she'd worn all her life. Are you sure you want to do this? She asked without looking at me. I tied my coat tighter. I've waited 30 years to look my daughter in the eyes again, Rachel, I'm sure. Anna stood up, her voice shaky. I'll come too. Rachel hesitated, then nodded slowly. It's a long walk. The lake's different now. The water is lower. The path's overgrown. Then we'll clear it, I said. We left just after sunrise. The air smelled like wet earth and pine. Every step on that old dirt road felt like walking into the past, a place that had never healed, only festered. No one spoke for the first 20 minutes, only the crunch of gravel and the crows calling in the distance. Then Rachel broke the silence. She was laughing that day, she said quietly. Lily, she thought it was a surprise, something special for you. I felt a lump rise in my throat. She loved surprises. Rachel nodded. She picked wildflowers on the way, blue ones. She said, "Mom will like these better than roses." I stopped walking for a moment. The memory, so simple, so pure, tore something open inside me. Anna glanced at me, her eyes soft. "She had your kindness," she whispered. I swallowed hard. She had my stubbornness too. We reached the trail that curved toward the lake. It was narrower than I remembered. Wild vines had taken over, branches reaching across like skeletal arms. Rachel used a stick to clear the way. "Right here," she said, after a while, pointing to a patch of moss-covered stones. "This used to be the old fence line." The smell of damp wood and decay filled the air. The lake shimmered faintly in the distance, calm, deceptive. I could hear my own heartbeat. "Where?" I asked. Rachel's voice was almost a whisper. "Behind the willow tree, near the roots." The world seemed to slow down. The three of us moved quietly, like intruders trespassing on sacred ground. The willow stood tall, its branches dipping low into the earth, heavy with years of secrets. The ground beneath it looked disturbed, slightly raised, uneven. I turned to Rachel. "You've been here since." She nodded weakly. "Once. On her birthday. I brought her the same blue flowers." My voice trembled. "Why didn't you tell me then?" Rachel looked away. "Because you still call Dad your hero. Because I couldn't bear to destroy that." I clenched my fists. "He destroyed everything the moment he touched her." Silence. Even the wind seemed to pause. Anna took out a small garden spade from her bag, something she'd grabbed from her car. Her hands shook as she handed it to me. "You should do it," she said. I knelt down slowly. The soil was cold, damp. Each scoop of earth felt like a memory unearthed. Laughter, birthdays, bedtime stories. Rachel stood behind me, crying silently. Anna crouched beside her, whispering prayers under her breath. Time disappeared. The only sound was the scrape of metal and the uneven rhythm of my breath. Then the spade hit something solid. I froze. My stomach twisted. Rachel stepped forward. "Careful," she whispered. I brushed the dirt away with my hands, the soil clinging to my skin. A piece of old cloth appeared, faded and torn. Beneath it, wood. A small box. Not a coffin. Too small. Maybe something Dad had built. Maybe something he thought would hide his sin forever. My fingers trembled as I cleared it off completely. The box was damp, but intact. I could see initials carved faintly in the wood. L.H. Lily Hayes. My breath broke. He even marked it. Anna turned away, covering her face. Rachel knelt beside me. "Mary." "I don't," snapped, my voice breaking. "Don't say my name like that, like you're the one hurting." I reached for the lid. It creaked softly, stubborn against the years. And then it opened. Inside lay remnants of a child's world. A pink ribbon, a small toy bracelet, a crayon drawing folded neatly. No bones, no body, just emptiness. I stared in disbelief. "What is this?" Rachel shook her head, stunned. "It was here. It was here, Mary. I saw him. I helped." "Then where is she?" I whispered. Anna stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Maybe he moved her. Maybe after..." I looked up sharply. "After what?" Anna hesitated, glancing at Rachel. Rachel's face went pale. "After he realized someone else knew." "What do you mean?" She took a step back, her voice trembling. "He wasn't the only one at the lake that night." I frowned. "Who?" She hesitated, eyes darting between us. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Mom." I stared at her. "What?" "She came after you left for work," Rachel said, her voice breaking. "She found Dad had taken Lily. She followed him. I didn't know until later. She saw what happened." I felt the world collapse around me. "Our mother?" Rachel nodded slowly. "She helped him bury her. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe she moved her later. I don't know. She said she'd take care of it." I could barely stand. My knees buckled. Anna grabbed my arm, steadying me. "She protected him," I whispered. "She protected him and left me to suffer?" Rachel cried harder. "I think she thought she was protecting you. She said you wouldn't survive knowing." I stared down at the empty box. For 30 years, I had imagined my daughter lying here, beneath the roots of this tree, and now even that truth had been stolen. The air grew colder. A crow screamed in the distance. I stood up slowly, brushing dirt from my hands. "Where is she, Rachel?" Rachel shook her head helplessly. "I don't know, but if Mom moved her, she would have gone somewhere she thought was safe." Anna whispered, "The old house." We both turned to her. "The summer cabin, your parents' property by the ridge. It was their place for privacy. No one ever went there." Rachel's eyes widened. "Oh my God," I met her gaze. "Then that's where we're going next." Rachel wiped her tears. "Mary, that place has been abandoned for decades. There's nothing left." "There's something," I said firmly. "There has to be." I turned back toward the lake, staring at the reflection of the willow in the still water. It looked peaceful, like it didn't remember the horror buried beneath it, but I did. I could almost hear Lily's laughter carried in the wind, faint and broken, like an echo that never found its way home. Rachel whispered, "What if we're too late?" I looked at her, my face hardening. We already were. We walked back in silence. The path felt longer this time, heavier. Every few steps, Rachel stopped to catch her breath, her guilt weighing more than her years. Anna walked beside her, silent, her eyes red. By the time we reached the car, the sky had begun to clear, a small patch of blue breaking through the clouds. But there was no peace in it, just a cruel reminder that the world kept moving, even when yours had stopped decades ago. As we drove away, I looked at the lake through the rearview mirror. The willow grew smaller, fading into the mist until it was just a shadow. I whispered softly, to no one in particular, "I'll find you, baby, no matter where they put you." Rachel turned her face toward the window, tears sliding silently. Anna rested a hand on my shoulder. "You will," she said softly. "But when you do, you might wish you hadn't."
The drive to the old cabin took 3 hours. No one spoke. The air inside the car felt too tight, like the truth had taken up all the oxygen. Rachel sat in the passenger seat, eyes fixed on the empty road ahead. Her face looked hollow, haunted. Anna sat in the back, her hands fidgeting with that same ribbon we'd found in the box, as if holding it might somehow guide us back to Lily. The highway curved into a dirt trail that wound through the forest. The trees grew denser, darker. The closer we got, the quieter the world became. Even the birds seemed to avoid this place. When the cabin finally appeared through the clearing, it looked like something time had forgotten. The porch sagged, the windows were clouded, and ivy had claimed half the structure, but I remembered it. Every corner, summer holidays, Lily running barefoot through the grass, Dad sitting on the porch with that same fake smile. I parked the car. The engine died, leaving us in silence. "This is it," Rachel said softly. I nodded and stepped out. The air was colder here, the kind that seeped into your bones. As we approached the porch, the wooden boards creaked under our weight. Anna touched the door handle. It turned easily, unlocked. Inside, the smell hit us. Old wood, mildew, and something faintly metallic, like rust or blood long forgotten. Dust floated through the sunlight that barely slipped through the cracks. The living room was exactly as I remembered it. The same fireplace, the same broken lamp, the same photo frames still hanging crooked on the wall. Except now, I noticed something else. The frame was empty. "Someone's been here," I murmured. Rachel's voice trembled. "Mom came here often after it happened. She said it was her place of peace. I didn't ask why." "Peace," I said bitterly. "She found peace where my child lost her life?" Anna brushed her fingers along the fireplace mantel. There were faint carvings on the wood, initials. "LH," she whispered again. And beside it, another. I leaned closer. The second carving was faded, almost erased, but I could still make out the shape of the letters. MH, Mom's initials. She was here, and she wanted us to know it. Rachel turned pale. Maybe she was asking for forgiveness. Forgiveness? My voice broke into a bitter laugh. "You think carving her name beside Lily's is forgiveness?" Anna stepped back. Mary, but I didn't listen. I walked deeper into the house, each room colder than the last. The floorboards groaned like they remembered everything that had happened here. When I reached the back door, the one that led to the garden, something caught my eye. The ground outside looked disturbed, fresh, not old. "Rachel!" I called. "Come here." She walked up slowly, her breath catching when she saw it. That wasn't there before. We stepped outside. The backyard was overgrown with weeds and wildflowers. But in the center, near the oak tree, the dirt was freshly turned, the color darker than the rest. Anna whispered, "Someone dug here. Recently." My heart pounded. Without a word, I grabbed the shovel that leaned against the fence. It looked almost new. Rachel's voice shook. "Mary, wait!" "Maybe," but I didn't wait. The first scoop of dirt was heavy. The second came easier. Each dig sent pain through my arms, but I didn't stop. Then, the shovel hit something soft. I froze. Rachel gasped. Anna covered her mouth, tears streaming. I knelt and brushed the soil aside with my hands. It wasn't wood this time. It was cloth, a faded blanket, pink, with small stars printed across it. My breath caught in my throat. It was Lily's, the one she used to drag everywhere, to picnics, to bed, even in the car. I lifted it slowly, and beneath it, bones, small, fragile. Rachel fell to her knees. "Oh God! Oh God!" Anna turned away, sobbing. I sat there, unable to move. The world had gone silent. No wind, no birds, just the sound of my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I reached out with shaking hands, touching what was left of her. She was home. Finally. But as I lifted the corner of the blanket, something else slipped out. A folded piece of paper, wrapped in plastic. I wiped the dirt away and opened it. It was a letter, written in my mother's handwriting. "My dearest Mary, if you are reading this, it means the truth has finally found you. I tried to protect you the only way I knew how, by keeping the pain from your hands, by carrying it in mine. You must know your father didn't mean to hurt her. It was an argument, an accident, a fall. But the moment it happened, he changed, and so did I. He wanted to hide her near the lake. I couldn't let that be her resting place, not where he sinned. So after he buried her, I came back. I moved her here, somewhere quiet, somewhere we laughed once. I wanted you to have peace, even if it was built on lies. I was wrong. Forgive me if you can. She never stopped loving you. Neither did I. Mom." The letter slipped from my hands. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Rachel was sobbing, her hands covering her face. "She did it to protect you, Mary. She really thought lies could build peace, but all they built was this." I looked down at the small, fragile remains. 30 years. 30 years of questions, of nightmares, of empty birthdays and false hope. And now, this silence. Anna whispered, "Do you want to call the police?" I shook my head slowly. "No, not yet." I sat there beside the grave until the sun began to fade. The golden light spilled across the trees, hitting the soil where Lily rested. And for the first time in 30 decades, I felt still. Rachel sat beside me, trembling. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said softly. "You don't have it, but I understand." Anna knelt, touching my arm gently. "What will you do now?" I looked at the blanket again, the stars still faintly visible despite the years. I'll give her what she was denied, a name, a place, a peace that's real this time. We gathered stones from the garden, built a small marker where she lay. I wrote her name with trembling fingers in the dirt. Lily Hayes. Forever loved. Finally found. The wind picked up gently, carrying the scent of pine and rain. Somewhere in that stillness, I thought I heard her laugh. Faint, fleeting,
like a goodbye. Rachel whispered a prayer. Anna cried silently, and I just sat there. Because sometimes grief isn't loud. Sometimes it's the quiet acceptance that the truth, no matter how cruel, has finally stopped running. As I drive home, the letter lies on the passenger seat beside Lily's ribbon. For the first time, I don't feel haunted, just human again. The storm has passed, and somewhere beyond the clouds, I hope she's watching, smiling, finally at peace. Sometimes, the truth doesn't set you free. It buries you next to the ones you lost. But at least now, I know where to lay my flowers. For a long time, none of us spoke. The sound of rain faded, replaced by the rhythmic drip of water from the trees. I knelt by the half-dug grave, staring at the small shape beneath the earth, a bundle of bones wrapped in what used to be a pink sweater, Lily's sweater. My hands were trembling, my breath shallow. Rachel stood behind me, her arms wrapped around herself like she was freezing, though the air was warm and heavy. I whispered, "She was here all along. My baby, she was right here." Rachel's voice broke. "I told you, I came back once. I saw the sweater. I couldn't move her." I looked up at her, my face streaked with dirt and tears. "How could you keep this from me, Rachel? How could you bury her twice? Once in the ground and once in silence?" She covered her face, sobbing. "I thought I was protecting you." I shook my head slowly. "No, you were protecting yourself." The rain started again, light at first, then harder, soaking the soil, turning everything into mud. Anna stood a few feet away, her umbrella useless now, her mascara running down her face. I reached for the earth again, brushing away more soil, but then my hand hit something hard, not bone, not wood, something else. I froze. "Rachel?" I whispered. "There's something here." Rachel stepped closer. "What do you mean?" I dug carefully, my fingers clawing through the wet ground until something metallic glinted beneath the mud. It wasn't part of the grave, it was beside it. A small, rusted metal box. Rachel's eyes widened. "Oh my God, I forgot about that. What is it?" I asked, my heart racing. She swallowed hard. "Dad, he made me put it there. He said if anyone ever found this spot, I had to destroy it." I stared at her. "Open it." Rachel hesitated. "Mary, maybe we shouldn't." "Open it!" I shouted, my voice echoing through the trees. She knelt beside me, fingers trembling as she pried open the corroded latch. The box creaked, a metallic scream, and then it opened. Inside were photographs, old, faded Polaroids, and a small cassette tape. My hands shook as I pulled the photos out. There were pictures of Lily, laughing, playing, and then others. Ones made my stomach twist. Lily at the lake, Lily sitting beside Dad's truck, and one of her crying. "Oh God," I whispered. "He took these?" Rachel nodded, trembling. "He documented everything. He said he needed proof." "Proof of what?" She didn't answer, but the truth was written all over her face. Anna stepped closer, covering her mouth in horror. The silence was unbearable. Only the rain and the distant caw of a crow broke it. Then I noticed something else in the box. A folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. I unfolded it with shaking hands. It was a letter, addressed to me. "Mary, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I did what I thought was right. She saw things she wasn't supposed to see. You'll never understand, and I can't make you." "Dad." I stared at the paper, disbelief and rage burning through me. "He killed her because she saw something. What the hell does that mean?" Rachel's lips trembled. "She saw him, Mary, with another girl, one of his students." My entire body went cold. "What?" Rachel nodded weakly. "He was having an affair. Lily caught him at the lake. She threatened to tell you. That's why." Her voice cracked. "That's why he snapped." I fell to my knees again, clutching the letter to my chest. The storm broke open above us, rain pouring down in sheets. It felt like the sky itself was crying for her. As lightning split the clouds, I realized this wasn't just about Lily. It was about all of us. The lies, the silence, the disease that had lived in our family for generations. Rachel and I buried the box again, not as a secret this time, but as a marker. Then together, we lifted what remained of Lily. We carried her, wrapped in my old coat, up the path toward the car. Every step felt heavier than the last. Halfway up, Rachel stumbled. She fell to her knees, crying. "I don't deserve to live, Mary. I let him make me his accomplice." I turned to her, soaked and shaking. "Then stop running. Tell the truth. Let it mean something." She looked at me, eyes full of regret. "I'll go to the police. I'll confess everything." I nodded faintly. "It's not about punishment anymore. It's about peace." That night, I sat alone by the fire in Anna's house. The others had gone to sleep. The cassette tape lay on the table in front of me, staring back like a ghost. I hesitated, then pressed play. A hiss, then a voice. "If anyone's hearing this, I didn't mean to hurt her." Dad's voice.
She ran. She screamed that she'd tell you. I just wanted to stop her. But when she fell, it was too late. I buried her because I couldn't face what I'd done. My chest tightened. He sounded so calm, so human. That was the worst part. There was no monster in his tone, just a man who'd broken everything he touched. Then, right before the tape ended, there was a pause, and another voice, Rachel's. "Please, Dad, don't make me lie to her." And then silence. The fire cracked softly in the background. I sat there for a long time, the weight of decades pressing down on me. Then I whispered, "I forgive you, Lily. I'm sorry I didn't protect you." A tear slipped down my cheek, landing on the tape. For the first time in 30 years, I felt something shift. Not peace, not closure, but truth. And that, somehow, was enough to breathe again. As dawn broke over the misty Oregon lake, we buried Lily again, this time beneath her favorite tree. No secrets, no lies. Just her name carved into the stone. But as I turned to leave, Rachel stopped me. She said, "There's something you should know. Lily wasn't alone that day." I froze. "What do you mean?" Rachel's eyes filled with fresh tears. She wasn't the only one he hurt. The world tilted again. And just like that, the story I thought had ended had only just begun. She wasn't the only one he hurt. Rachel's words hung in the air like a fog that refused to lift. Outside, the wind moaned through the trees, and for the first time since the truth came out, I felt something colder than grief. Fear. I turned toward her. "What are you talking about?" Rachel's eyes glistened. There was someone else at the cabin. Another child. Anna, still sitting at the edge of the couch, pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. "My God, Rachel, no." Rachel nodded slowly. "A girl from town. I think her name was Emily. Dad used to help her mother fix things around their house. She'd come by sometimes, play with Lily in the yard. That day, she was with her." I felt the room tighten around me. "You mean she saw what happened?" Rachel's voice broke. "She never went home." Silence fell again, heavier than before. The rain had stopped, but the world outside felt washed away. I stood up, my legs trembling. "Show me where." Rachel looked up, exhausted. "Mary, it's late. The woods." "I don't care. We go now." Anna whispered, "Maybe wait for daylight." But I was already grabbing my coat. 30 years of waiting had turned patience into poison. I needed to see it, all of it. The journey. The car's headlights cut through the black forest road like thin blades. Rachel sat beside me, silent. Anna was in the back seat, holding the flashlight like it was a weapon. We didn't speak. Only the sound of gravel under the tires filled the car. When we reached the edge of the lake, fog rolled across the ground, low, ghostly. Rachel pointed ahead. "There, past those trees." We walked the rest of the way. Branches clawed at our coats, the damp soil sinking under our boots. The smell of moss and decay clung to the air, and then through the mist, it appeared. A small cabin, half collapsed under the weight of years. Its windows were shattered, the door hanging crooked on one hinge. Rachel stopped. "Dad used to come here to fish when we were kids," she whispered. "He said it was peaceful.
He brought her here after I pushed the door open. It screeched like a scream. Inside, the dust was thick. Spiderwebs clung to the corners. A single chair sat in the center, toppled over, as if someone had left in a hurry. Anna covered her nose. Smells like old soil. Rachel's flashlight landed on a trapdoor, half buried under debris. My breath caught. What's that? Rachel hesitated. That's where he kept tools, I think. I knelt, brushing off the dirt. The wood creaked under my hand. Something about it felt wrong. The nails were too new. The boards didn't match the rest of the cabin. Help me, I said. Anna and Rachel knelt beside me. Together, we pried the boards loose. The smell hit first. Earthy, sharp, final. Rachel turned away, gagging. I reached down and lifted a small object from the darkness. It was a metal locket, rusted, caked in soil, but inside, a faded picture of Lily and another little girl, arms around each other, smiling. My heart stopped. Rachel whispered, "Emily." Below the locket was a box, small, wooden, wrapped in what used to be a child's blanket. I opened it. Inside lay 2 tiny hair ribbons and a notebook. The cover read, "Lily's Diary." My hand shook as I opened the first page. April 7th. Mom says I can't go to the lake alone, but Grandpa says he'll take me. He promised we'd build a surprise for her birthday. My vision blurred. Page after page. Sketches of the lake, of the trees, of a little girl with braids labeled E. Then the last entry. April 9th. Grandpa's angry. He says I told secrets. E is crying. I want to go home. He said no. I dropped the notebook. Rachel's sobs filled the cabin. By dawn, the police had arrived. Yellow tape, flashlights, shovels. They found what we already knew. The remains of 2 children near the roots of an old cedar tree behind the cabin. One with Lily's hair ribbon, one with a bracelet engraved E. The detective's face was pale when he approached me. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. We'll get forensic confirmation, but it matches your daughter's case." I nodded numbly. Words meant nothing now. Rachel gave her statement, trembling. Anna sat in the back of the ambulance, staring at her hands like they no longer belonged to her. When the sun rose, it painted the lake in gold, cruelly beautiful, as if mocking the horror it had hidden. I stood there, clutching the diary. 30 years late, but the truth had finally surfaced. Or so I thought. The letter. 2 weeks later, the investigation was wrapping up. Rachel had been cleared. The police ruled her a witness forced into silence by fear. The media called it the Lake House Confession. I stayed in Anna's house. I didn't know where else to go. The nights were quieter now, but not peaceful. One morning, the mailman knocked. He handed me a small, weathered envelope addressed in handwriting I hadn't seen in decades. "To Mary, for when you know." My heart froze. It was Dad's handwriting. The letter had been postmarked 30 years ago, but never delivered, found recently in a safe deposit box under his name. I sat at the table, the same one where Anna told me the truth, and unfolded it. "Mary, if you're reading this, you've learned what I could never say. I don't expect forgiveness. I only ask that you understand. It wasn't anger that drove me that day. It was fear of losing you. Lily knew. She heard something she shouldn't have, about Rachel, about what I did before she was born. She wasn't the first. I thought I could make it stop, but the darkness in me, it kept coming back. When I saw her run, I wanted to stop her from telling you. I didn't mean to. Please, bury the past where it belongs. Don't let it take Rachel too. Dad." My stomach turned. Before she was born, the words echoed. Rachel looked up from across the table, eyes wide. "What does he mean?" I couldn't speak. I handed her the letter. She read it once, twice, then whispered, "He hurt someone else, before us." The realization hit like lightning. The pattern, the secrecy, the rage. Our father had been a monster long before Lily. The police reopened older missing child files in nearby towns, and one matched a girl named Marianne, gone at 13. Her case file was closed, but the cabin's soil held traces of 3 different DNA profiles, 3 children. Weeks turned into months. The lake was drained, the land marked as a memorial. Rachel moved back into town, trying to make peace through therapy and community work for missing children. Anna stopped drinking. She said confession was her way of surviving now. As for me, I kept Lily's diary on my nightstand. Some nights I'd open it and imagined her voice reading it back to me, soft and curious. On the anniversary of her disappearance, I went back to the lake one last time. The trees stood silent, the air still. I placed the diary and Dad's letter inside a small metal box and buried them together under the cedar tree. "Rest now," I whispered, "all of you." When I turned to leave, a beam of light filtered through the branches, hitting something half buried near the roots. I knelt and brushed away the soil, a small toy ring, plastic, with the name E etched on the inside. I smiled through tears. "You're not forgotten, sweetheart." As I walked back toward the car, the wind carried a faint sound, like children laughing far away. For a moment, I almost believed it was real.
People say time heals, but it doesn't. It just teaches you how to live with the wound. I thought the truth would destroy me, but it freed me. Because love, even buried in darkness, never dies. It just waits until someone is brave enough to dig it up.